Hey, Screenmates, I'm Nick.
I'm Steph.
And I am Miles.
And that is Chris, the screenplay fish, aka today, Nemosis, named by Frosty.
Oh,
Nemosis.
like Nemesis.
Yeah.
But also
Yeah.
like Captain Nemo. Oh no, like Finding Nemo. I'm
Finding
sorry.
the fish.
I'm sorry, I'm just such a highbrow motherfucker.
No, that was cool. That was cool. You went
No,
like
I forgot about
old school.
I forgot about like the Pixar classic. I'm sorry, my bad. I'm sorry.
Alright, well, moving on from
Captain Nemo.
Captain Nemo. How old are you?
But that like
That's
Nemo.
classified.
Nemo the fish would have been named after Captain Nemo. So
Yeah,
That's true, that's
Full
true,
circle,
that's
full
fair.
circle.
And now
Yeah.
we've got Nemesis, so it all comes together. Do you want to name that fish? Let us know in the comments with your suggestion and the hashtag name that fish. Today, we're not naming fish, surprisingly, even though that's what I say every day. And one day we will have a full episode about that. But today, the episode is about the fact that Fortnite has overtaken PUBG on Twitch as the most streamed and watched game. Before we get into this, I just want no qualifications, just the name. If you had to play one of these games for the rest of your life, which one would it be? Steph. Don't you dare qualify.
PUBG.
Fortnite.
Fortnite. All right, now let's have an actual discussion. So, leading it off, Twitch released some numbers in the last couple of days. In the last 14 days, Miles knows this, you know,
2
so
weeks.
I'm ready for this. In fact, I'm gonna have this here so I can see the reaction. Just, can we get a, like, Will punch in or something? In the last 14 days, people have watched 4,882 years worth of Fortnite. And they have streamed 246 years worth. They've streamed for 246 years. PUBG, in comparison, 2,500 years watched and 106 years streamed. Pathetic! A pathetic amount of years streamed in the last 2 weeks. So they smashed it. Smashed it. And I thought we would talk about why this is.
I think it's just the general rise and fall of popularity in games, and soon there'll be another game, and Fortnite will just fall into the ether.
It's our fickle nature.
Yeah.
We're very
Yeah.
capricious viewers.
I think it does enough different from PUBG to make it a unique experience from PUBG, even though that the premise is pretty much the same. But I don't think that it's like necessarily a better game. I think it's just that people got really into PUBG for a while, and then they're like, let's play this version of it, and then the next version of whatever that is will come, and then people will play that, and then those two games will be all but forgotten.
And how many years will they be streamed then? They'll have
all you wanna
they'll
know.
have pathetic Overwatch numbers of 51 years streamed in the last 2 weeks.
The thing for me that's been really interesting about the difference between PUBG and Fortnite in the public eye is that like Fortnite is now permeated into like mainstream media where there's like, you know, like morning chat shows in the US that like
ABC News in the US.
Are your children playing too much of the Fortnite video game? And the parents are like, my son was Fortniting for 13 hours on the weekends. It's like,
Become a verb.
it's now,
And-
that's
and-
because
yeah.
they're just idiots.
And the whole thing
That's
was
why
like,
it's a-
but
That's
did you?
anything. That's WoW. That's Overwatch. That's Minecraft.
PUBG was humongous. That was like an overnight success that like blew
Yeah.
up and everyone
That's
loved.
the
But that
thing,
never made
that-
it to the
that-
to the shitty American news.
PUBG felt like it just escalated really quickly.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the two things that push Fortnite where it is now is it was the first one out on console, which means that, you know, you're more likely to have kids will have a PS4 or an Xbox before they have a super high-end PC. And you kind of need something a bit more high-end for PUB because it runs like shit a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's kind of
and then the cartoony look as well, which I feel like is something
More
that
accessible to a broader age
yeah,
group.
yeah, and I think that it's less violent, it's less oppressive. Like for me,
It's got an arcadey feel to it.
Still
Totally,
kind
yeah.
of violent though. Like if my mum would have
I
come
mean,
in,
it's still a game about murdering 99 other people on an island.
It's still
so,
the
yeah.
Hunger Games. Like
Yeah.
if my mum came in, she'd be like, "Oh, it's Toy Story." No, it's not. No, it's not. And you're like pickaxing a little woman's face in.
Holy shit! I play the crap out of Toy Story Battle Royale though.
my
Like the
God.
little army man
And you
versus
start
the
in
Barbies.
you start in
and
Andy's room.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
Can
you
you
pick
play
up
as the
like.
dinosaur?
Of course, you could play as the dinosaur.
What if you all become like you're a generic toy, like an Action Man or a Barbie?
Yep.
And you pick up like famous pieces of like Buzz's laser or like Woody's like leg that you turn into like nunchucks.
So is this implying that before you arrived in Andy's room, all our beloved favorite Toy Story characters have had such an awful fight that they've ripped each other to pieces, and you come in and you use the pieces of their bodies as weapons?
You're in Sid's house.
Holy!
You're in Sid's house. Yeah, okay.
Yep. Okay, good.
Sounds like an awful
And then
game.
when you win, you get your gamer tag written on the foot of Woody.
Yeah.
That is such a game. Will, bleep all of that because we don't want Disney stealing it. Okay, so I mean, I guess the reason that I wanted to talk about this is I love Fortnite, and I tried to love PUB, and I liked playing PUB with you.
Yeah.
When you weren't shooting me in the back. Oh shit! But there's something about PUB beyond the oppressiveness of the art style, and it's a very depressing place to be, and it's a very real place to be. Like the tension is way higher in PUB than in Fortnite because it just feels like you're really in that place. For me, the reason that I love Fortnite is that the cartoony aspect of it lends itself to more experimentation in what it's doing. So even though obviously Epic have this massive team behind them, compared to Bluehole and the PUB guys. Fortnite's adding jetpacks. Fortnite has these modes where it's like, it's two 50v50 things and you're building these massive forts to fight each other. Like, there's play in Fortnite, which means that it's opening itself up to more like crazy things on Twitch, and it's more exciting to watch because it's like, oh, this is a fun universe, but that stuff can't exist in PUB because PUB's supposed to be like the Ukraine
super
or whatever.
real, but you can't have PUBG could never have a grenade that forces your character to disco dance.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not gonna
hard.
happen.
It's like I tend to enjoy games that have an art style or a look to them that is more realistic, because for me that's just the kind of immersion that I like. But the flip side of that is something like Kingdom Come Deliverance, where you're like, are you making it so real that you're making it less fun?
Too real.
And I agree. I think with Fortnite, you're giving people more creativity and more kind of exciting and innovative ways to, fuck each other up, basically.
Yeah.
And like, I think it has more room to grow and expand and add new elements to it for that reason as well.
And they're doing a much better job than PUB. And again, I think it's because of the size of the team. But Epic has basically gone like, all right, we're kind of taking people off Fortnite proper and we're putting them onto Fortnite Battle Royale because we just need to be releasing new outfits, new skins, new weapons, new modes, new weapon
I feel like we waited so long for that PUBG desert map, and then it arrived, and we were like, cool, so it's like Sandia.
That's totally it. And also they launched a game that, and I don't want to say, like, I'm not trying to take stuff away from PUB, because I think it did. You'll do that? Okay, you could do that in a second. but PUB launched, and it launched buggy. Like, it was like, there was a lot of technical issues. So it's kind of like fixing that game before you can really start iterating on that game. And Epic just kind of launched Fortnite and were like, hey, it works. And then it was like, oh, cool. I do like games that work.
There is still part of me that feels like they were designing a very different game, and then we're like, oh, let's just copy that one mode that they did, and now it's so successful. Like,
Do you even remember what old Fortnite was?
Yeah, the PvE stuff, yeah.
What was it?
And I don't say it's wrong that they've done that, but there's part of me that just feels bad for PUB because they worked so long, as you said, it was a work in progress for so long that they were letting the community in on, and then it became this massive sensation. And I was like, oh, well done, Brendan Green. He seems like a really nice guy. And now it's like this other thing has taken over.
The man.
See,
because they kind of like rode the coattails.
See, to me, I know that was the whole thing of like, oh, the engine that PUB was built on, the people who own that engine are now making their new game. And this is going to be controversial because I Will put a big sort of like corporate man hat on me right now while I say this, but I actually think that it's a better story that like this game pivoted from something that was not particularly successful into something enormous rather than just like launching a game that took the world by storm. They changed the entire way that this game sort of was being made and played, and I think that's a more interesting story. We can now remove the corporate hat.
You know what it is for me now? I've just realized what it was. The biggest problem with PUB was an indie game that had phenomenal success and blew up and became more valuable than they ever could have dreamed. Mm-hmm. Had it not been that, and it just became this like kind of cool, sneaky underground game, a big developer, some big crazy studio would have come in and been like, how's it going, Brendan? You want a bit of cash, and we'll take that game off your hands, and we'll give it the love it deserves. And he's like, oh, hey, that'd be really cool. And then like that way, PUB would have got the dev team it needed, the money it needed, the backing. But because it's such a gargantuan, super duper indie hit now, he's like, we're good.
Bluehole's like, we're not selling.
We're good. And now no one else is going to come in and buy that and provide that kind of like super duper corporate backing, like corporate man hat.
Yeah.
There's no corporate man hat person that's going to be able to come in and save the day. And now they've got like this guerrilla force of indie developers that are like, we got a cool game, but they're trying to catch a waterfall with their bare hands because there are so many people playing it. There's so many bugs. There's so many problems. Cheaters, aimbots, aimbots. Ah!
I think of PUBG and then I think of like DayZ. Do you remember when that was just like the biggest thing and then it was all anyone was talking about?
Yeah,
well, yeah,
like
because
H1Z1.
Where is Dean Hall now?
Where? Dean, if you're watching, let us know in the comments. And Dean, name that fish. Do you think it's because DayZ was a real social experiment?
Yeah.
And I feel like Pub,
yeah.
that's what Pub tapped into, which I think Fortnite taps into less, partly because of the sort of cutesiness of it, but like Pub really feels like you are there on an island and it's your life on the line.
And you're
so
helpless.
therefore, yeah, and so you do things there that you would not do in other games. There's a sort of, there's a realness, character, world-building, role-playing situation there. Whereas in Fortnite, it's just like, this is just like a shooter.
It's almost like there always needs to be that game that paves the way, but it will never ultimately be the most successful.
Yeah.
They did all the hard work. They had the good idea.
That sucks, though.
It does suck.
It's like,
but also, they've made a lot of money.
I always think about, like, remember Battleborn? I liked Battleborn.
I liked Battleborn
Battleborn?
too. I liked Battle. Yeah.
No. No.
It had some cool, like, base buildings, like, not base building, but, like, you could build turrets and stuff like that.
The team-based shooter and the single-player stuff was fun. We did that.
Wasn't
together.
Battleborn the game that on Christmas Day when you opened up the game and you were like, I've got Overwatch, you open it up and it was Battleborn and you were like, go away, Santa.
That's exactly what happened. I mean, it also helps that Fortnite's free. So I think that we should not discount the fact that Fortnite, you don't need to pay to play, and Pub was $30.
And it was so broken.
And so broken, but Pub's made a fortune, but Fortnite, is something that anyone can play. But I do think ultimately in the end, Fortnite will end up being, it's already just developing faster. It's got the battle passes coming out. It's got interesting, cool, fun mechanics. I also like the way that they talk to the community. Like they had this big outage a couple of weeks ago, and they released a whole blog post going like, "Here's what happened when we're at."
Do you think it has the staying power of something like Overwatch? Like if they started to go down the Blizzard path and develop like really identifiable characters and stories behind them and stuff like that, do you think it could become like some kind of Overwatch phenomenon, or do you think it's just it is what it is and they'll bring in
they don't need
new
to.
guns?
Yeah, I think that's not. I think the game Overwatch is a game where mechanically it's excellent and people get really attached to the story that's outside the game and attached to the characters. Fortnite is a game where you create your story yourself. So the more story that they put in, official story.
What story have you created?
No.
Every game's its own story. Every game's
it's all
its own
about
experience.
like, we landed here and then we went here and I built this fort here and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that
you're not like role playing. You're
no. But I think it's about the stories that you create with your friends within that game.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And so the more story that they put in it, the more that clamps down on like the idea that you were doing something.
Yeah.
You don't have time for story. You ain't got time for no backstory in Fortnite. You have like 13 seconds in like the pre-battle bus area, and then you're in the party bus, and it's like, we're going! You drop, game's finished, there's no time for story.
So I read some stuff on the internet, and I don't know how true it is, but, we can discuss it anyway, that Epic was paying big streamers to play Fortnite as well, like big pub streamers, and going, okay, these people are really cool. Let's play.
It's common practice, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's more about like that they were paying them more so than just like, oh, you have a week where you're playing this. It's like, oh no, you're being paid for you're like on an extended contract for this. But then after that expired, they were like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to stick with this game now because you see like the rise of someone like Ninja, and I'm not saying. Whatever, I don't know whether or not he got paid for that. But
I reckon he probably did.
was someone who I remember him playing with Summit, and Ninja was getting like 14,000 people watching him, and now he's got like
numbers.
80,000 people, 100,000 people when he plays like on the reg, which is insane, and that jumped up in like a month and a half or something.
It's crazy.
I know.
It's pressure.
I know.
It's so full on.
I mean, I had my first win in Fortnite a couple of days ago, and I think we had about 400 people watching, and I think that they all agreed that I pretty much carried my team to victory. All right, now it's time for you guys to have your screen say. We put the question out to you about why you think Fortnite has taken over, and here are your screen says. All right, our first screen say comes in from Jacobs Lyman, who says, I think the fact that it's both free and available on all platforms bar the Switch helps it. Also, the colorful art direction really helps it appeal to a younger audience of players and viewers. And I think,
Toy Story. Just like Toy Story.
I'm just saying, that could definitely be a thing.
It's like a Pixar film. Fortnite's like a Pixar film because the kids look at it and they go, yay! And the parents look at it and go, there's something in there for me.
And I think a lot of this we've been talking about is what we prefer about different games, playing them. But given that it's how much it's being watched and streamed, I do think that this sort of stuff, like the more cartoony aspect, is a more appealing thing for a broader audience to watch. You're not like I think it's because people think that the Fortnite art style is generic, and I actually think it has a lot of personality. I think the pub one's generic because it looks like all the sand shooters that I play, and so it's less...
Sand
I think
shooters.
they
sound so
there's just a
dull.
lot more in terms of animations and things going on in Fortnite, like early on, than there are at PUBG. I feel like the first 15 minutes of every game is just very...
It's a slog.
Very slow, very kind of measured, very sneaky.
Like you're dropping the score, am I right? I was expecting more enthusiasm. At Stephen Crampton says, cheaters f***ing with people's PUBG enjoyment.
All right.
That was a big issue.
Hacks.
There's so many hacks. Apparently everyone in China is a hacker. That's what I read on the internet. That's what Reddit thinks anyway. Is that just so many people were cheating in that game that it just became like, impossible to play.
And Fortnite has better measures in place to prevent that?
Yeah, there's definitely still stuff there, but it's just got epic security. And finally, Artificial J Batten says, no appeal at all for Fortnite. It's a game for a younger audience than PUBG. I really hate the building mechanic. Also, it's game breaking, and it has lost me the win multiple times, and that's why I'll be sticking to PUBG.
I'm gonna throw this one out there that it's like
Salty.
As pure. Where's the clip from Last Jedi where the guy's like, "It's salt. If you suck, you suck, brother.
If you suck, you suck."
You gotta just admit it. I suck, and I just admit it. But the base building mechanics is the greatest thing to happen to Fortnite.
It's so good. It's so good. The thing I would like to see is more modes dedicated to expanding that out than just building a tall tower or putting a wall in front.
Can I get some wallpaper on my wooden wall, please?
That's what I'm talking about. It's that
$1.99
kind
per
of
paper.
developed
Cha-ching!
game mechanic that I meant. All right, there you go. That's the reason that Fortnite is crushing PUBG. Let us know in the comments what you think. Do you prefer Fortnite? Do you prefer PUBG? There's going to be people there who say I don't care about either, but frankly, we don't care about you because that's not what the topic of today's episode's about. So let us know in the comments what you think and follow us on all our socials.
Do yourself a favor and jump into our comment section.
Yes, or you could like this video as well, subscribe to our channel, it'd be super useful.
And you can turn on notifications, so every time we post a video, we let you know.
Yeah, and we got videos there and there you can also check out.
But you know about those because you had notification turned on,
Great
right?
afternoon of watching is ahead of you.
Could be morning.
Could be night.